I love it when it's like real nature. And for me, nature and innate and God, it's all the same. And for me, that's the source where all things come from. There's three places where I can find really inner peace. It's the first thing is when I'm together with my lovely wife, who I dearly love. The second one is when I'm adjusting people, and also contact with nature, which is for me is a constant source of recreation.
Hi everyone, for those of you listening and for those of you watching on YouTube, today I have a wonderful guest, my friend Markus Kuhmann, and he has an incredibly interesting story. He's an incredibly interesting guy. I first met Markus at a seminar and he came and did a program we ran, Chiro Wild. We're both nature-connected dudes, and I've been looking forward to getting him on The Natural You. So welcome, Markus.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Awesome, man. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? I know you had always been interested in nature. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that, and then how you got into naturopathy and then chiropractic, and so people can just get an idea of the depth and
Yeah, sure.
how long you've been really involved with healthcare and with nature.
Okay. Yeah. Let's start with the last question first. So how long have I been involved with healthcare? The thing is, I've pretty much been born into it because my mom has been a naturopath. So I would say it's quasi a little bit of inbred, so to say, into me, right? The thing is, nature always has interested me from the very start. The earliest memories that I have are me and my grandpa fishing at the canal in front of our house, or my dad and I checking the ditches for frogs and stuff like that, just to observe and to enjoy, and then let him go again. In my younger years, up to the age from, I would say, 9 to 12 years old, when I started about what I wanted to be, that was always something with nature. And in the beginning, I actually wanted to become a game warden, Förster, we say in Germany. I found out later in life, when school was almost done, that this is more like an engineering occupation today. So I said, no, that's not for me, sitting behind a desk or just walking through the forest and say, this tree has to be cut down, because I want to be in connection with nature. So that was that. And from the early age on, the interest was there. And I started hunting and fishing when I was 15, 16 years old with a license. You have to do a license card for hunting, for example. You couldn't do that when you were 16. I did that when I was 16. My fishing card, I was always fishing where you were not required to have a license. So my fishing certificate, my fishing exam, I did many years later. But there was always nature in my life. And when we come to profession, I learned about chiropractic, what is my love, my passion, a big part of my life for the last 30 years. But I came into that as a naturopath, following the footsteps of my mom, who was a naturopath in our own little clinic in Papenburg, northern Germany. And I went to a 3-year full-time school in Bochum, Germany, where I studied naturopathy. And then I did an exam, got my license, and practiced naturopathy with a strong connection to manual stuff. So I did a little bit of acupuncture. I did a lot of manual therapy, massaging. That went deeper into following up with manual therapies. And I practiced like that for 15 to 18 years. But I was never really, really satisfied with what I did. And then I met an American DC who practiced in Hamburg. And before that, I met even another American DC who practiced in Berlin. And both of them, Hamburg, were really connecting to the chiropractic philosophy. And that was like, okay, I got it. So I knew that I wanted to become a tool for people getting better, getting a healthier life, getting information about health, not just treating diseases, which I've done like the 10, 15 years before.
Wow.
And then the situation in Germany popped up that we had a university that was open for a chiropractic program. That was Dresden, beginning with the first one. It opened up in 2011. And I jumped on that. And I was in the first class to graduate in Germany after 5 years of studying chiropractic.
Oh, that's it's a really interesting journey. You mentioned your mom was a naturopath, and I
Yes.
know that you followed your mom, and now I know that your children are following you into chiropractic, and also your extended family. Tell us a little bit about how you've managed to do that. I mean, I've got 2 kids; they're not interested in chiropractic, but
Okay.
somehow you've been able to instill those values in them and inspire lots of other people.
The thing is, okay, first part first. Actually, when you connect my family, or when you count my family as not only my family in blood, but also my family with the family of my wife were related to me, and the siblings of my dad. We're actually 5 chiros that have studied chiropractic now, and we're 4. I'm sorry. It's myself. I have to admit, it started with me being really into that and being really interested to that. A little bit later, my cousin Linda, who practices near Osnabrück, wanted actually to become a physio, and I said, well, before you do that, why don't you join me to Chiro Europe, to a seminar in Spain that I visit every year, and then you get an informed decision if maybe chiropractic is something for you. And she did, and she was overwhelmed, and now she practices happily. I'm not entirely sure because we're not so close in contact right now. If you hear this, Linda, sending the best greetings. But she started at McTimoney, and then my brother-in-law, Patrick, went to New Zealand for a year, asked me for a CD to take with him. It was those days where you weren't streaming your information from the internet mainly, but you had recordings on CD. So I gave him a Peter Emlinger CD to learn English a little bit about chiropractic. So he came back from New Zealand telling me he wanted to study chiropractic. And he went to BCC, and in the college he met his to-be wife, Teresa, who is also a chiro.
So we're up to 4 already.
We're up to 4, and now my daughter Ayla is in college with McTimoney in her 3rd year in Manchester. Very likely she's going to finish her last year in 1.5 years. And my son is very likely starting chiro college in January. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Proposed, yeah. He's proposed to New Zealand Chiropractic College.
Fantastic.
That's a really, really big stretch for the father and motherly umbilical cord.
I'm sure that's a long way. And I was just listening to you were from Germany, and you got the Barcelona Chiropractic College, and you've got UK-based chiro, and now going to New Zealand. So it's really just a worldwide web of Kuhlmann influence.
It's interesting. I've also been on the board for the BCC for 6 years.
Oh wow!
I forget. I had a wonderful neighbor. The original family comes from Sri Lanka. She saw me adjusting her grandma, who was visiting from Sri Lanka, who had some health issues, and I adjusted the elderly lady, and she got better. And now Abi or Abana is a chiro too.
No way! So
She's studying somewhere in North Rhine-Westphalia. So I mean, inspiring people is a big part of what a chiro does.
And tell me, so you obviously really inspiring, Markus, and you exude that when you're in practice, and you're a huge promoter of chiropractic. What is it that's inspired you? I'm thinking particularly of nature. You've got this natural background. I know you love going into nature, and I'm sure that's is that a big part of chiropractic for you? How does nature outside of us feed that, and how does that express through you?
Well, the thing is, like, the nature outside is all around us. I love it when it's like real nature, and I love the Baltic Sea. And for me, like, nature and innate and God, it's all the same, right? And for me, that's the source where all things come from, especially all good things come from. For me, it's always it's not a tool, but it's for me a possibility to connect with nature when I can just plug in and just reconnect and be myself, and for me to get recharged, and for me to find peace. There's 3 places where I can find really inner peace. The first thing is when I'm together with my lovely wife, who I dearly love. The second one is when I'm adjusting people, because I think I'm the best person when I'm in my clinic. Nobody's perfect, and I'm absolutely not. But when I'm in my clinic, for that time, being patient, touching people, serving, I'm as perfect as I can be when I'm connected, right? And there's something I learned from Pat and Aaron, big time, is dropping in before each adjustment, taking that deep breath together with the patient, and then connecting with them to be able to connect them, right? To be able for that, to be ready for that, I use breathing, a little bit of exercise, and also contact with nature, which is, for me, is a constant source of recreation.
Yeah.
And I do that through walking, hunting, fishing, very avid mushroom collecting as well.
So tell me a little bit. I mean, I'm always intrigued by people who love nature and who hunt, because I've done that as well. But there's obviously that natural tension, and I had one of our previous guests who was a nature
Yeah.
conservationist and a hunter, and there's that natural tension between protecting nature and hunting. How do you see that fitting together? And I know we've had a few conversations around this before. Tell me how you used to see it and how you see it now.
Yeah. Okay. When I was in my younger years, there was always let's say an urge to have prey in a hunting way, right? So go out, hunt something, and I would get joy out of the pursuit, not out of the kill, but of the pursuing, out of messing my senses with the senses of an animal, considering the wind, considering the weather conditions, where the animal would be, stuff like that. But the older I get, the more I not only respect life, but it's harder and harder to take life of a warm-blooded animal. So what me and my wife do for at least 10 years now is not hunt for fun, but we hunt for the freezer, for the larder, right? So we eat meat, not every day, but we eat meat. We love to sustain ourselves with what we hunt, what we fish, what we collect. My wife is an avid herbalist as well, and she's also a very, very good observer and mushroom hunter and a huntress herself. But it's harder for me now to pull the trigger, actually, because warm-blooded animals, the older you get, I'm 58 now, the more you respect nature and the more you respect life by itself, right? And it's like, maybe it's because the clock is ticking for all of us. I only go out and I take life when I'm in need of meat. Also, my wife and I practice pretty much nose to tail practices or principles. That means that we really take whatever we can take from the animal. It's not that we take the sinews and we make bowstrings and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you're not just taking the prime cuts and then
no.
You're taking everything that's usable and
of course,
and the organ meat and all of that.
Yeah.
And I think, that's, when we think of our abattoirs and slaughterhouses, anyone who's eating meat, you're doing, I think as a hunter, if you're practicing in that way, it's probably even, more congruent and it's really, I think, more ethical that way. If you're going to eat meat, is being that intimate from taking the life to processing it and then making sure that you utilize every aspect of that animal. So
for me to be able to do that, go out and get that food for ourselves, for the family. I mean, I have a lot of respect for people who live vegetarian or vegan. Yeah? But the thing is, if you eat meat, I think you have to also be able to take the responsibility of taking life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Markus.
Yeah, and an honest 70 to 75% of what the meat we eat in all is something we've taken ourselves. And I know that this is an animal who has had a life, who has enjoyed nature with all the seasons. And I only pull the trigger when I'm really sure of an instant kill. My wife is the same. For me, that's something that I can take the responsibility for and say that was okay. And I always say thank you when I shoot an animal.
Yeah, I think that's all part of that process and making it more congruent with yourself and honoring that animal, isn't it? So that's the hunting side. And then you say you're fishing. I think you're fishing a bit more now. Tell us a little bit more about the fishing. The fishing is like, even the word itself is like, it's not catching, it's fishing, right? Like hunting almost implies like you're going to shoot something. So we know hunting, you don't always get the kill, and in fishing, you certainly don't always get the catch.
No, but I would even say you get more fish while fishing than you get game animals when hunting.
Really?
For me, hunting is the whole experience, and fishing the same. And you don't pull the trigger every time. Definitely not. And it's a most enjoyable day just to be out there and just absorb and watch, or sometimes take a photograph. Yeah, or just be able to sneak up really close, and you're not recognized as a human being. You don't disturb anything. That's why I also went into bow hunting.
Okay.
For a while, which I did. I know you're South African originally, right?
Yeah.
So I went to a friend of mine who's South African. He had a farm in South Africa, and we went there and hunted with a bow, where you have to be even more close to the animal, and you're not disturbing nature with a crash with a report of a rifle, but just the arrow that goes, right? I only did that for a few years, but the main thing for me is really that when you look at the transports on the motorways, where the pigs, the cows or whatever is brought to the slaughterhouse, that makes me sick just the sight of it. And for my conscience, I can say when I occasionally take an animal life for our larder, for our fridge, that this is an animal that has had a life and has had minimal stress, if at all. And the same goes with fishing. Fish are cold-blooded animals. When I catch a fish, 9 out of 10 times the hook sits in the front of the lip somewhere. It's just like a fingernail a little bit. I don't know the English word, but it's not hurting the fish a lot. So you draw them out, you kill it cleanly, and then you take it and you use it. For me, that's also a part of being part of nature, because nature itself is not a kindergarten. There's animals of prey, there's animals that are being preyed on, and I don't think that we have the inside out of accident. For me, meat is not everything, and I don't have to have it every day. There's great vegetarian dishes that I really love, but it's part of our diet. Yeah,
and so, sure. And your fishing, do you always catch for the table, or would you do catch and release as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I caught my biggest pike on that particular Baltic island where we're going to move soon. It was 1.17 meters, which is a really nice size. It's not big. My brother Patrick could tell you something about his big pikes. He's a really avid fisherman. Just came back from the Seychelles from a fishing trip. Of course, fish of a certain species you catch for sport and you release as quickly as you can. Maybe take a photo, you say thank you for the dance, and you let them swim again. And fish that we used to eat, I love to eat flounder, flatfish, we say.
Yeah.
And my absolute favorite fish is the sea trout, which a lot of people call the fish of the 1,000 casts. But it's actually more the fish of the well-researched and well-observed casts. Because they're not everywhere. So
that's where the skill comes in, right? And are you fly fish, or do you use live bait? Well, how does it all work? What's your favorite?
I have used a fly rod, but I'm not really good with it. I'm a beginner stadium at fly fishing. I'm in the meantime getting definitely better in sea trout fishing. And I have friends who come visit the island or live on the island who have a boat. I don't have a boat yet, but that's the first thing. When my wife is satisfied with her new kitchen, I'm allowed to have a boat. So we're going to drive out.
Good way to make sure that kitchen gets put in quickly.
Yeah. And also, there's a current on the island that's called the Rasrower Strom. So when we have been there on the Easter holiday for 2 weeks, for one day in the morning, we took our wading trousers. We walked into the water, but to the place where the current goes to, where the ships run. It's a shipping lane. It's a deeper water. And we fished for 2 hours, and we had about 100 herrings, which is our fish for the year.
Yeah.
In that species, right?
Yeah.
Because my wife does wonderful things with it. She smokes, and I smoke. Not smoking cigarettes, but
smoking the fish. Yeah.
Hot smoking fish, stuff like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you do have permits, and you can take a certain amount.
You have a license that tells you what kind of fish you have no limits on. That are there in big numbers, like herrings and flounders and stuff. There's no limits on those, but there's really, really big swarms coming in. And like sea trout, there's a limit on them, and that's rightfully so. And there's also the salmon actually in the Baltic Sea, which I haven't caught so far, but I'm very keen on doing that one day. And you can have one a day.
This is the Rügen, if I pronounce it correctly, in the north.
That was wonderfully pronounced.
Northwest of Germany, one of the most northeast of Germany. Looks on the map, looks to be one of the most northern parts of Germany.
When you go across, and you hit Denmark. And when you take another angle, you hit Poland.
Yeah, it seems right up in that top northwest corner.
Right.
And it's about 500 kilometers from where you are now. Is that right?
550, yeah.
Yeah. So you're in practice at the moment, and I understand there's a big transition happening.
Yes,
the pull of Rügen has been working its way for the last few years. So
for the last 15
years. So tell us a little bit about the draw of the island and how you're managing this. So I know your kids are now, like you said, they're all at university. This next transition, this next phase of your life, tell us about how you're working that and what your plans are.
I think it's for the last 15 to 18 years, my wife and I have been doing a lot of holidays on the Rügen Island that we have seen, or actually, when I did my naturopathy license, I did that in Stralsund, which is on the border of Rügen Island. So I saw that the first time in 1990, I don't know the exact year, but it must be 1994, 1993, something. It was just a couple of years after the Berlin Wall had been made to come down. So you could still see all the buildings and stuff in a very, very bad state after the socialistic time of the former German Democratic Republic. But the nature was just breathtaking there. Here at home, when I say here, I mean we're about 20 minutes to half an hour from the North Sea, which has high tides and low tides, right? So when you go to the North Sea coast, the ocean, most of the time I go there, it's not there, right? It's a muddy plain. It's beautiful, but the North Sea has the high tides, right? The Baltic Sea doesn't have that.
I didn't know that. So it's much more tidal where you are now in the west as to the east.
So it's very minimal tide there. And besides that, the nature is just breathtaking. Like the Brits have the White Cliffs of Dover, and the Rüganer, or the people in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, they have the White Cliffs of Rügen Island. It's chalk cliffs where you can collect and hunt fossils. You can also find amber.
And do they have like here we have these chalk streams which are very clear, and they have like trout and things like that? Is it similar? Do they have that on the island as well? Any streams or lakes?
I can't compare that because I don't know. They have a few lakes. They have definitely some streams, and they have the outward water, which is the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
And you have the inlets that are called bodden, which is like brackish water.
Yes.
Because it's mixed sweet and salt water.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of old, I think I might be confusing that. Beech trees is the harder wood. It's not birch, right?
Beech trees. Birch are the silver ones, and beech are the big ones, yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of pine, fir, and beech trees. Really, really big size forest there.
Beautiful.
There's a lot of animals on the like. There's 5 species of huntable game animals on the island. Like they have mouflon sheep, they have red deer, they have fallow deer, they have red deer, and they have white boar. Okay. You also see otter on the coastline a lot. You see the fish eagle, the red milan. The forests are thick, rich, deep, and the coastlines can be white sand, where you can also collect amber when it's time for the winter and fall and spring storms. And the water temperature and the current and the wind direction is the right. You can go to the beaches and find some amber if you're lucky. I heard that people nowadays go there very early in the morning with black light torch.
Yes, yeah.
To collect that. You can hunt fossils. You can just enjoy nature. I know of a place where you can just sit there in May or maybe even June and watch the fish eagle catching fish and feeding his young.
Wow.
And it's just, for me, it's a breathtaking European nature. I don't think it's all natural forest. Most of it must have been planted, I think. But there's really, really lovely, big chunks of nature there that you can really enjoy. You can walk for a long time without seeing many people.
It doesn't sound like doesn't feel like it's managed the way you describe it. It doesn't feel like it's very constrained.
Is managed, but I think it's very responsibly managed. And on top of that, we found a house that has been a forest warden's house for 30 years. It's in the midst of the forest. Dude, so from the main street.
Dude, I'm already booking. You keep that spare room warm. I'm coming.
Yeah, we could do a Cairo Mile there.
We once ran I was quickly telling the listeners, myself and Glenn Duffy ran Cairo Wild, which is taking men into the mountains and having basically a 3 or 4 day retreat where we do a lot of activity and men's work effectively. A few years ago, we decided to run one in Germany, but it was kind of a low-key event, and we, instead of staying outdoors in tents and tarpaulins, we rented a house, and we went for some lovely walks, and we picked mushrooms, and one of the guys gave it a nickname, Cairo Mild, and not Cairo Wild. So I think Markus is interested in the Cairo Mild, it sounds like.
My hip is giving me trouble. I have done Cairo Wild once.
Yeah, you did.
I've been really, really impressed by the young guys and the older guys like Stu Pittman who were jumping onto the mountains like mountain goats. For me, that was physically challenging because I'm like a flatline type of guy. I'm not the mountainous type of guy. When I go hiking, I can run for miles or I can walk for many miles if it's like hilly maybe, but no more. But hiking has never been my thing.
And what about the weather there? Isn't it? I mean, it seems like pretty north. Does it get really cold?
It is. The spring is behind where I live right now for about 2-3 weeks. It gets colder. The difference of daylight and nighttime is also a little bit shifted towards here. It gets darker later in the day. We wanted to have a vacation home because of moving there was always something like maybe we do it one day. You know, these fixed stories you have in the head that never come true.
Yeah.
And also always been like that. And then my wife and I said, well, it's a very challenging time, which I'm sure you have experienced right now with the tectonic plates of the earth being a little bit erupted by politicians making strange decisions.
Yeah, I hear you.
And times are changing. It's like a cycle every 80 to 100 years and stuff like that. Right? Long story short, we said, with what we earned and the capital we have, why don't we put it in something concrete in the literal sense, right? And we're looking for a vacation home, but then another house found us, so to say, which has been a forest warden's home. It's in the middle of a beech forest with old trees. It has 7,000 square meters, yeah, and the house is just inside the forest. You can hear the fallow deer in the rutting season and the red deer in the rutting season calling. You have the owls calling every night. You have from the window of the bedroom, you can watch deer in the morning. I have very rarely slept with more peace in my life than when I'm in the forest. And waking up there, opening the window, always sleep with open window, and just seeing wildlife close to the garden fence. You have to have the garden fence, obviously, otherwise the wild boar would turn the lawn upside down.
Yeah. I know that the deer love flowers, especially. I know. I had a friend not too far from where we live, and these deer jumped their fence. It was a low fence. They came in, and all his wife's prize flowers just flattened in one night. So he wasn't very. They weren't very happy. So I know that deer do love flowers, and if you're having a veggie garden or something, you want to kind of wall that off from other animals too, don't you?
I mean, the thing is, I ran a very successful chiropractic clinic for many years now. We have been averaging, let's say, 370 to 450 patient visits a week for the last 12 to 15 years straight. And to give that up, and it's not only the numbers, it's the people you connect with, right?
Yeah.
I have patients in the clinic that I have seen the first times when their mothers were pregnant with them, and now they're 18, 90 years old and bring their girlfriends or their fiancés, and one is already married. You have 3 generations of people coming in that puts their trust in you, right?
Yeah.
And leaving like my tribe in clinic behind and handing it over to someone else is not, for me, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much part of our identity, so people in practice, it's what we do is part of us, and it becomes kind of, for some of us, who we are. It's like who we are is what we do, and then as we unattach from that, as we kind of go, well, who am I? If I'm not in practice, who am I? As we mature, and as our kids start to move on to their next phases, we move on to our phases, as we move as we move kind of into later adulthood and hopefully eldership, if the wisdom is there, hopefully we can shift over, and those are new times, and I see people reflecting and trying that new skin on, in a way, like, well, who am I, what am I without this big practice and all these people who need me or relying on me.
Definitely.
And and how that feeds us, especially in terms of the ego, right? Because I'm the guy that's supported them all the way through, and now suddenly I'm not that person anymore. Then who am I? And I think most of us go through that at some point. And so how you finding that, Markus? Is that an internal struggle for you, or you pretty much set it aside, or you still processing?
Let me take a little bit of a bigger circle to that. When I was building my clinic that I'm running now, I was in connection with Jim Sigefus, that I had the honor to meet and coach with for a couple of years when I was still literally and legally a naturopath. I had the pleasure of working with him for 2.5 or 3 years before he died. And I also had the pleasure of working with a mutual friend, Stu Bittman, for 2-3 years. Building this clinic has been a big part of my chiropractic evolvement, I would say.
It's an expression
of my journey, right?
Because and it's an expression of you and your view and your view on chiropractic.
Yeah, I mean, we built that clinic literally through the law of attraction, which was pretty much the key thing of what Sigefus was talking about. So when I saw this piece of land in the city that I practiced in a small clinic, the town hall official said you can't have that piece of land for a clinic because we want clinicians, doctors, lawyers, whatever we want that in the city, because otherwise they would go shopping in the big mall that's going to be planned outside, stuff like that, right? Politics. And the patient of mine was like a trust worker for me into that gremium and managed for me to have an audit with the town hall, right? So I proposed literally for that piece of land to build my clinic, and that was all during the time that Sigafus was coaching me. I even had him over in my clinic. He saw it when it was ready, and he was really impressed by the clinic itself, because it's really big, it's beautiful. It has a feng shui Italian, no right angles and stuff. It's all like, it's not a practice, it's a living room atmosphere in there, right? It's also really big. It's 300 square meters with 2 big adjustatoriums. And I really love going there for a lot of years now. As Stu Bittman told me out of the blue a couple of years before, I think it has been 4 or 5 years now, he said, Markus, it's about time you think of becoming an elder. And that sentence really hit me, because it's like, when you have the circle of life, every circle has a starting and has an end, but it also has no end and has no starting, right? Because as in my family, the legacy continues when my kids go into Cairo school. But still, there's this 4 life phases of a human being when you consider the life as seen by the Native American Indians. And I've done a lot of the inner winter seminars with River and Sunshine, that you also know, and the Vital Experience with Mark, and I've been coaching with Mark Hudson as well. So I'm very familiar with the life stages of the eagle, which is where you're young and you spread your wings, you learn to fly, the coyote that is tricking you, the bear where you really own it, and also the buffalo who is starting to share until he finally meets his destination. So for me, it's about accepting to be entering the buffalo phase and handing my people, my tribe, my clinic over to somebody who's capable of being there for them. So the ownership is changing, but it's still an address where the people can go. And what we have built is there and will very likely be there in a couple of years' time. So my wife and I are free to enjoy ourselves more, enjoy ourselves together in nature more, in the knowledge of our children continuing in a chiropractic legacy, which is really a blessing. We didn't enforce that on them. They just, out of themselves, they wanted that. And so it's a little bit about starting over new, but it's also about letting go and see 58 now. And so God will, I will turn 90, I hope, someday. And there's time for that. But still also there's letting other people come up, taking the place, taking over, and have a different view on life, that it's not only about collecting and saving big, but also about who am I, what is life for me, what value has it to be able to go out into the nature I love whenever I want. So the new clinic will be when I'm in there in the first 2 years, maybe it's going to be 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if my daughter is interested in stepping in with me, we can do 3 days her, 3 days me, 3 days me. There's 78,000 spines on the island, just the inhabitants. And then there's up to 300,000 people, tourists coming in on one weekend when there's vacation time and more, right? So also, yeah, of course, I want to continue serving, and I can't imagine ever not wanting to serve people with my hands as long as I can do that. But there's also the aspect of now we're financially secure. I don't have to work anymore because we did a lot of right decisions among some bad ones. So if there's any young Kairos or whatever, listen, start saving early. It's a good thing to do, that you can have the security to retire, but you don't have to retire if you don't want to. But also to be able to have a life that is not only practicing, but also enjoying nature whenever you want, and be able to go fishing, or maybe to go hunting, or maybe to just have a walk on the beach, or something like that, have life quality, very close in an environment, in a natural surrounding that we love and find inspiring. So to me, that's this aspect of life right now.
Well, Markus, I'm so happy for you. I think you've done a lot of amazing work in chiropractic, and you've really set the benchmark for a lot of people in Europe. I know that, and I know a lot of people look up to you and inspired by the way that you run your practice and the way that you hold yourself. So I want to say thank you for being that person, and we're watching on with great interest with this next stage of life for you, and as you do accept that mantle of eldership, and how that's going to evolve in your new place for you and your beautiful wife. And we want to see how your kids step into their roles, and so
that I want to see too.
We all hope we can see that. Markus, thank you. I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing with us, and
it's been an honor.
And just before we close, is there a little parting message or words of wisdom you have for the listeners or young practitioners that you could share, other than the already ones you already have?
Yes, there is actually. I would say, like right now, for me, especially since 2019, 2020, since Corona hit, I think it's very, very important to stay close with your family, not necessarily in a roomly way, but closely connected, to love, to forgive, and to practice being kind over being right. And also, I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a chiropractor because people are so stressed out because we have had the pandemic, we have the Ukrainian war, we have the climate challenge that people have different reasons of being upset about, but we're not going into politics about this. But the thing is, people need to be connected to themselves. And I don't think there's ever been not also a better time business-wise, but also a more necessary time to be to connect people because people are constantly driven into fear. When you're afraid, you pull your shoulders up, you tuck your head in, you're constantly putting pressure on your brainstem. And what we do is just releasing people, connecting themselves again to their inner God, to their inner healer, to make them go out and be better persons. So actually, I want to part with telling you why I am adjusting, why I still love going to the clinic, why it's always short time when I go in there and time flies. For me, it's like when I'm connecting people and I lay my hands on people and I take a breath with them and then I adjust them. It's connecting them and making them more at peace with themselves and their environment. And I think with one spine at a time, for me, it's making the world a little bit safer for my kids to walk in, to grow up in, to experience things and to find their red road in life. So that's my why.
Beautiful, man. So if I can summarize, we need to be seeking more connection, more forgiveness, more kindness, so we can all have more peace.
That sounds lovely.
Beautiful. Markus, all the best for your next stage, my friend, and I'll see you at Chiro Europe.
You will. I owe you a beer too, I would say, and I'm looking forward to you seeing you, giving you a hug, seeing Glenn and the others.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, my friend. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you, like me, and want more people to experience nature and experience the power and beauty of nature both inside and outside of themselves, please help me by sharing this podcast. All you need to go on is onto your platform, whether it's Spotify or Apple, whatever other platform you are on. Just give it 5 stars and a quick review, and we can then get the natural you out to more people. Thanks for your help.